My name is Chris John Mazarura. I was born in Mutoko. This is a story about how Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa transformed my life. I went to high school in Marondera here in Zimbabwe. And after high school, I went to school in England for about 4 years. Then after the 4 years, I moved on to the United States, where I stayed for another 4 years. From there, I came back to Zimbabwe to help within the family business. It was around in 1999. I was helping my father. We were running close to 100 buses, supermarkets, trucks, and farms as well. By 2002, I was actually running my own buses and shops. And at that time, I decided to get married. After a year in marriage, my then wife woke up paralyzed. There was no movement whatsoever in her whole body. And she was taken to hospital. The doctors couldn't help her. We were then asked to look for spiritual help. At that time, that's when all my problems started, because I started visiting witch doctors, white garment churches, trying to get help. But no help came, and more and more confusion came into my life. My in-laws took my wife then out of the country. I didn't know where they had gone. I was left alone. The blame was on me. They wanted to know what had happened to their daughter, of which I didn't know what had happened. She had been now close to 2 years in a wheelchair, operation after operation, but there was no help. Through the time I stayed overseas, I never once drank alcohol or took drugs. But at that time, I was then introduced into alcohol. I started drinking a lot through stress and depression. And because of that, it separated me away from most of my family, including my father. Because now I was just so much in confusion. I gave up on a lot of things. I gave up on my business, started losing some of my properties, started losing, not even going to work. All I started doing was deals just to get money for alcohol and for partying. When she was gone, at that time my friends that I used to hang out with introduced me into drugs, started taking cocaine. From cocaine, I started taking crack cocaine, rocks. And within those 4 years, I was struggling to stop drugs, but I couldn't. Around in 2009, I was even introduced to crack cocaine, and my life was really getting messed up. Nobody knew, even the people that I was staying with, they didn't know that I was addicted. Sometimes I would wake up and in the bathroom, in a tub or something like that, because I would knock out. I knew I would die. But at the time I was now looking at my daughter, she was staying with my mom, that maybe I would die and then who would look after her? That's when I would now start try to pray. I was not connected to any church or anything like that. I would try to pray to God to ask for help. I couldn't get any help everywhere I would go, and I couldn't freely talk about drugs. It was, you know, the minute you tell people you take cocaine or crack, nobody wants to associate with your business or anything, so I couldn't talk about it. So in 2010, I was driving from Willowville coming through into town. So I saw the rides by the showgrounds. I had friends calling me to come for drinks and buy some savannas and stuff so I could get drink and then maybe go home and sleep. But as I was driving, I thought, let me pass through the Luna Park. Maybe I could see fun happening there or something, because there was people coming from the show. As I was driving closer to the City Sports Auditorium, I heard a lot of shouts. I knew this place for basketball. I didn't know it for anything else. Basketball, maybe parties. So I thought, maybe there's a party going on in there. Let me go see what's going on. So as I drove closer, I heard so many people screaming and shouting and yelling, and a man would preach 1 or 2 words, and then people would scream and shout. And I thought, why are people so excited? Why are they so happy? I'd never heard so many people so happy. So it got me curious, so I got closer. But then I heard a voice telling me to come in, but then I realized it was church. This man was preaching. I parked my car and I could hear a man preaching. Then I heard a voice telling me to go inside. So I started arguing with myself. I was like, no church, I'm not going inside, I'm not going inside. I was like, maybe if I get a parking inside, I would go in. So I drove in and there was one parking spot left. So I parked right there by the parking spot. So I sat in the car, I was listening from the car. But the voice kept telling me to go inside the auditorium. So I switched both my phones off. I had friends calling me for a drink, to buy some beers, some savannas, and we should meet and maybe have drinks before going to sleep. So they kept calling, where are you, where are you? So I thought, let me switch my phone off. I switched my phones off. I walked in. As I walked inside, the place was so packed, I was trying to look around to see if I could find anyone I knew, but I couldn't see anyone. There was no chairs left, so I sat on the floor. As I sat on the floor, there was a tall man, he was ministering, and everyone around me disappeared, and it was just like me and him, the two of us left in the room. As he was talking into my life. Close to 3 hours, it was just so amazing because he was basically talking to me. Everyone else had just practically disappeared. He was talking to me and talking into my life, everything. Everything that was making me cry, everything that was making me sad and not happy. I'd never sat in church for 3 hours that long. It was just too much, but I was just so wide awake. And then he said to me, I want you to go straight home. Don't think about going anywhere else. At that time, I was thinking, after this, I'll just go maybe for some drinks before I could go home, because I couldn't sleep without taking alcohol. But he was telling me that now I'm assigning some angels to go home with you. Go straight home. And I was trying to wonder what kind of power does this man have to assign angels to go home with me, and I just couldn't understand anything. As I was going out, I only saw a sign written UFIC. I was wondering what UFIC was. I didn't know what it was. So I walked out, I went to my car. I stood by the car looking around to see maybe I could find someone I might know and ask what his name was, but I didn't see anyone. I drove home. I was looking around in the car, maybe I could see angels, but I didn't see any angels, so I just decided to go home. So I got home, I slept, and next morning I went to Marondera. I told my mom that I went to church. I mean, she was so shocked that I went to church. I told her about it. She asked me who the pastor was. I said I didn't know. So she's like, so how are you going to go back again? So I said, they've got a crusade in Highfields, so let's all go there. Will you come with me? She said, fine, we'll go. So we went to Highfields. The last year of the crusade, I got baptized. That same month, I think the second month, there was a conference. And the conference was in September 2010. I remember Grandpa Prophet Victor Kusibo was praying for people. He had a bottle of water. He was moving from bay to bay, throwing the water and people would fall. So we couldn't wait for him to come to my bay. And we wanted to also have that kind of experience. And he came to my bay, and by the time he got there, he handed over the bottle of water to Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa. But as he handed the water to him, he was like, there's a young man who I see on that bay struggling to stop drugs. At that time, I think I'd been addicted for close to 4 years. Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa got the water, and he splashed it in my direction. I didn't see water coming, but I saw like spikes of ice cubes, and with so much force. Before the water even touched me, I was thrown back and I fell. As I got up, my whole shirt and my face was wet. And I remember very well that since that time, the craving of drugs and alcohol stopped. That same year, what surprised me was, it was always my prayer that I could not move on. I could not have a proper relationship because my thoughts would always be back. What about her? What would happen to her? What surprised me that same year was I got a phone call from South Africa, and she flew in to Zimbabwe, and then she was walking. That was one of my second prayers that was answered, because now I'd stopped drinking. The person that's life I thought I was being blamed for ruining her life was now healed. So this is my story of how Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa has transformed my life. You know, from being a drug addict, a junkie, from being a person who never knew God, from being a person who was lost, you know, how he took me out of the streets, how he took me out of misery and into a good marriage. You know, it's been now close to 5 years. I've never touched alcohol. I've never touched drugs. I don't believe that there's no miracle that he can't do, because I've seen the worst, what the devil was basically doing in my life. So now I'm a person who's growing back into business and family. Everything is now working out. I've got my own place now where I'm staying with my wife, and we are happy. And I just want to really, really thank him. And for all the people that also have the same problems, I know this is also the man of God who can also help you. My business now has started. I'm selling cars. I got a car sale in Marondera. I sell boats, I sell trailers, and it's amazing how within less than 2 years, how we have actually grown. And the most amazing part is even my own biological father, who never wanted to see me because of the person I turned out to be, he actually visited me in Marondera. He came to my workplace and he was so happy. I get so much support now from my brothers and sisters. I get so much support from my dad. He actually visits me once in a while, and he's even given me a couple of cars to even sell for him. I'm so happy. I've never been so happy. I don't even know how I could thank Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa for what he has transformed my life into.